Welcome to the Credit Union Business News Podcast, the only all-digital, all-business resource for credit unions. This episode is sponsored by Bator Training and Consulting. We create environments where employees actually want to come to work and members want to keep coming back. Hi, I'm Kbator, your host for the Credit Union Business News Podcast, and I have another great guest. I never have a terrible guest, but I've been having such awesome guests the first season of this podcast. I'm nearly beside myself because I'm learning a ton in all these. So let me tell you about the guests we have today. We have Tansley Stearns, who is definitely a credit union professional and expert. She is the Chief People and Strategy Officer. I'm going to find out what the heck that is at Canvas Credit Union. But she spent a half a decade at the Filene Research Institute, where I had an opportunity to meet her. She was an AVP of Corporate Strategy and Government Relations at Bethpage Federal Credit Union. She also was at Connex Credit Union for 4 years as the VP of Sales and Service. Probably most importantly to some folks out there in the audience, she's a Wolverine. She's got a degree from the University of Michigan. So go Wolves, Wolverines, I should say. But Tansley, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ken. I really appreciate you having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. We had a great conversation. I believe it was about 5 years ago when we were both speaking at, I think it was the Shapiro Summit out here in California. But we had some great conversations on social media and other things that were going on. So I know we're going to have a great conversation today. But first off, I really want to know, and for our audience, I want to know what a Chief People and Strategy Officer actually does.
Yeah, that's right. So do so many people. So really,
you're still trying to figure that out too, right?
That's right, exactly. So my responsibilities here at Canvas are marketing, our creative agency, which we're building here internally, our people, which is what other organizations might call HR. So that's learning, it's our talent team, and then the HR operations side of things, and then organizational strategy. So those are the things that I have the gift to spend some time thinking about here at Canvas. And, we really, when I came to Canvas, I didn't have the responsibility of our people team. And as Todd and I kind of dreamt about what the possibilities were for my role, we saw a ton of synergy between the people side of things and the marketing and creative side of things.
Yeah.
So much of that is about communication and keeping people engaged and informed. And so it's interesting as I've shared my title and role with others, not just within credit unions, but in other industries. I believe this role and that combination of responsibilities is probably a big part of our future because, human beings are so much a part of what we think of in terms of driving the success of organizations today. And so I think that communication is core to keeping both, members in our case engaged as well as internal, what we call family members at Canvas.
Yeah, I'm so pleased to see the progression in culture and in innovation in the org chart in credit unions over the last 5 years or so. I think since the Great Recession kind of ended, most credit unions, the ones that not only wanted to survive but really thrive, really got it. I remember back in 1993 when I started in the industry. I'm dating myself. I think that they firmly planted a stick somewhere when you walked in on orientation day, and it was amazing. It was amazing if they were progressive enough to actually have a marketing manager, much less somebody. Yeah, and much less somebody like this. And I've often thought that the marketing and HR function in one way, shape, or form needed to not necessarily merge, but be well aligned, because I've always believed that before you could really market properly to your members, you needed to market properly to your employees. They needed to be jazzed about it. Are you feeling the same way, or am I way off base?
Yeah, absolutely. No, you are. And it's so interesting. I started my career at a tiny credit union in Metro Detroit, and one of the things that I learned really early on is that marketing internally is the key to any successful marketing externally, because, you know, nothing worse, you know, this sort of old thing that used to happen is that marketing would send something out and none of the frontline folks knew that it even existed, right? And there's really nothing worse than that. So, and communication is so important. And it's funny because, you know, in this world where there's so many more channels to communicate, there are still so many messages coming that you have to have multiple touch points, multiple times. By the time you are sick of saying it, you've probably just crested other people hearing you. Yes.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right, Tansley. I will fully admit that one of my biggest failures in my career was in the 90s, feeling that I didn't need to share anything from marketing and business development with anybody else. And that was a downfall. Fortunately enough, I got sharp enough to realize in the 2000s that you can't do it that way. And even our marketing department at, you know, this $500 million credit union I worked with, our marketing department would get, you know, bored and get like tired of the same ad and the same message. And wisely, I said something very similar to what you just said. I said, you know what, we're bored with it because we're seeing it every day. I guarantee you, you talk to the MSRs out there, they're probably just barely getting it.
It's so true. It's so true. So yeah, that's that discipline of being relentless and messaging, even when you're tired of it, is, I think, really critical.
Yeah, exactly. Well, from what I understand, Canvas changed its name not too long ago, about 2 to 2.5 years ago. Was that your doing? You came on in March 2018. I said, I can't stay here with this name. Yeah, no. I'm sure you are a part of it in some way, shape, or form. Talk about the name change a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So actually, when Todd and I started talking about me coming to Canvas, they were in the midst of the name change, and he asked if I would like to come and help lead that process. And I was really enthusiastic about it for a number of reasons. One of the biggest, you know, as you alluded to earlier, you know, for many credit unions, marketing has been kind of the soft stuff, the nice to have, the not really valued. And luckily, you know, under Todd's leadership, we really value marketing as a business partner here that helps drive the organization forward. And so, you know, when Todd came, you know, there was a lot to get done at what was then Public Service Credit Union. There were technology needs, probably most importantly, big cultural shifts that he wanted to make. But he had this underlying concern about the name. And once he got some of those fundamentals shifted, really focused on, okay, so do we really need to change it? You know, he had that inclination, but very wisely did some research to figure that out. And the research that we did, what I'm so proud of was it really considered all of our constituents. So our members, potential members, and our internal family members. And what we really heard, not surprisingly, was that people love the credit union and especially the people, but didn't really care very much about the name. And there wasn't really any strong connection to the name. And as is common with so many credit unions, the name caused a lot of confusion for those that weren't members. You know, can I join? Do I have to have worked for a certain place? I don't get it. And so that led us down the path to start ideating with an agency here in the Metro Denver area called Monagle. And they helped lead that process. And again, it was very research driven. You know, even once we got sort of the short list of names, we went back out again to that same group of constituents. And how powerful, because there were names on that short list that we loved, that our members and potential members said, did you think about this? And that was super helpful in shaping where we landed. And Canvas actually came to fruition because when we got that feedback, what we heard was very positive connection points, but in different ways. So for example, we'd have people say, well, you know, I really imagine a blank canvas where I could paint my financial future, or Canvas seems like a very Colorado thing, or Canvas is really strong and I would want my financial institution to be strong. So people weren't seeing the exact same thing, but all of the things that they saw were very positive. And that's really who we are. We talk a lot about being delightfully offbeat here at Canvas. We don't expect people to all be the same, and we love those unique gifts. And so having a name that allows people to see those unique gifts and what they could give to them as our members, we just thought was magical.
Yeah, yeah, I love that story and the progression. I find myself, especially over the last few years, and especially now as we're entering the new normal, telling my
Yes.
credit union clients, and sometimes there's a little bit of a fight with, no offense to you baby boomers out there, but that want to tie to that credit union name. Yeah, I literally have to say that in your name, the credit union, while still important to your brand, is the least important part of your name. And I
Right.
get some fight on that, and I just simply say, you know what? Ask 10 of your members randomly if they care
That's
that you're
right.
a credit union or not. And I'm not saying that can't be a valuable piece of your brand or a valuable brand association, but from the membership standpoint, all they care about is the experience and what that name connotates in terms of the experience that they're going to have. If you turn, out to be the next Amazon tomorrow and they still had a great experience, they wouldn't care.
No, it's so true.
Now a word from our sponsor, Bator Training and Consulting. Would you like to create an experience both for your employees and your members that increases productivity and sets your credit union on a straight path for growth, even in these times? Then let's talk. Let's set up a 15-minute consultation where we talk about your unique institution and how we can increase productivity and growth, whether your credit union is 1 million in assets, 10 billion in assets, or anywhere in between. And during that complimentary session, let's also talk about our B plus C plus S snapshot, formerly called our B plus C plus S audit. We do a deep dive into your brand, culture, and strategy. It's often the perfect start in working with Bator Training and Consulting, and provides a real value in a full report providing observations and implementable actions for the enhancements of your brand, culture, and strategy. This service also includes a 2-hour video meeting with me, Kbator, to review the report with you and your management team and discuss how we can create a well-branded experience for your employees and members that's going to increase productivity and help the growth of your institution. To learn more, send an email directly to me at Kbator, Bator, at btcinc.net. Again, that's Kbator at btcinc.net.
What I talk to our team about is what's the outcome and what's in it for me, for whoever is looking at this, right? And so, anytime that we talk about Canvas and we talk about what we can bring to bear, it's always about, okay, that's fantastic, but what does that mean to me? So, one of the ways that we launched the brand was with this Go Live campaign, which is really all about the fact that we know for most people, I wake up dreaming and thinking about and loving credit unions, but for most people, financial services is not all that sexy, and it's not the thing that they wake up dreaming about. It's the thing that is a task to be done. And so, for us, Go Live is really about, let's take away the burden of financial services so that people can go live the amazing life that they want to live in Colorado. Now, living in Colorado right now is a little bit closer to home. But again, we want those moments wherever they are in whatever situation to be focused on what matters deeply to them, and we'll take that burden away.
Yeah. If it makes you feel any better, I live less than a mile away from the beach in Long Beach, California, and I'm told that I can't go there. So
I hear you.
yeah.
I hear you.
But be that as it may, with a lot of people being at home,
Yeah.
You put out a lot of quality content out there. For instance, I know that you have, I think you just came out with a video series called Canvas Compass, Navigating Life Show. You have a podcast, which is called In the Room. And you have more stuff out there, frankly, can you clue us in a little bit on the strategy behind the content?
Yeah, absolutely. So last year in the early fall, we developed a CEO thought leadership strategy. And it was really surrounding the fact that we are very lucky that we've got a super dynamic CEO in Todd, who is very, very passionate about our brand. And we want to make sure that we're continuing, just as we talked about earlier, to tell our story in multiple different ways. And we believe one of the pillars of our vision is to be a leader in the communities that we serve. And certainly that's the typical community, the communities that we serve here in Colorado, but it's also other communities. It's our credit union community. It's the community of business members that we have. And so as we thought about the different ways that thought leadership strategy would come to bear, In the Room was one of those, because we thought, gosh, I remember so vividly before I had a leadership title, I was always so curious about what was happening in the room, right? They'd go into a leadership meeting and the door would close. And then, I'm imagining what's happening in there. And we believe deeply in transparency here at Canvas. And so we wanted to open that door.
I always figured when they went behind a closed door, they were thinking about how they were going to fire me, and then one day that actually came true. But that's another episode. But please continue. They were probably thinking of how to promote you because you were a better employee.
Oh, I don't know about that. But yeah, so when we launched it late last year, it was really an alternating conversation between credit union CEOs and CEOs of credit union organizations that serve within our space, and then also owners and CEOs of organizations here in Colorado. And it was really about, let's hear about their journey, what's keeping them up at night, and also humanizing them. I love to say that CEOs and leaders all put their pants on the same way that everyone else does, but I think there's a bit of mythology around that. And the great thing about Todd is that he's got a real unique way of having a very honest conversation. And so we've been doing that. And then as we headed into the pandemic, we shifted a little, wanted to continue it because we think that content still matters, but also really want to hear uniquely, what are people doing in this time and what could people be learning? As an example, we had a small business called Crush in my hometown of Castle Rock that joined us last week. And, he's an owner and talking about, as a small business, what's this like? And what does he envision for his future? We had Bob Trunzo join us to talk about, what's Key Mutual Group doing in these times and what does he hope to learn and how does he serve credit unions uniquely right now? So we've been really proud of that. And then, the new video series that you mentioned, our Compass, Navigating Life, really, again, one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about during this time is that I think all of us have a lot of questions, right? And it might be as simple as taking all my money out and hiding it under my mattress, or, if I lose my job, what do I do? And so we really wanted to think about a different audience, kind of the every person. What are those questions that they might have and how do we answer those in a quick and simple way? And so that's really what the video series is all about. The first one that came out was about, what are 5 tips and tricks for working from home? And then the second one that we're releasing this week is really about, what are those simple questions that people might have about their finances today? And again, a core part of our brand is transparency and then what we call BS free. We want to make sure that we are reducing bank slang. I'm sure you probably remember this too. When I first started at the credit union, I felt like I was listening to people talking in another language because I really didn't know what they were saying. And I remember vividly about a year in, I was in a leadership meeting and all of a sudden I knew all the acronyms. And then, of course, what do? I start using all the acronyms. And so we want to take that away. And I think that this Canvas Compass Navigating Life series really allows us to demonstrate that and engage with people.
Yeah, I applaud you for what you're doing with content. Yeah, I've long time believed that your membership and prospect base, yeah, are all different. You know, some people actually want to pick up something and read. You know, probably the 2 or 2.5 people that still read a newsletter.
Yeah, that's
And, and other people, want to actually sit and watch a video, while others just want the audio. They want you to be in their ears while they're making dinner or going for a walk
Yep.
or something, so they can learn something. And that, if your credit union, thinks that, creating content, going up another level, is putting a PDF of your last annual report on your website, you're really, really missing the boat, because your membership, all of them are going to be in one of those three buckets. And if you're not hitting them via video, audio, and written, if you're only doing even 2 out of those 3, you're missing a percentage of your membership. So I applaud you for that strategy.
Thank you. Well, and it's interesting because, we've done a lot of brand benchmarking to understand, as our young brand is growing, how it's resonating. And, you start to think about that brand funnel. Making financial decisions is not the same as buying a new pen or buying a new soda. It's not going to happen all the time. And so what we know is that we need to be in front of people regularly, not in a salesy way, but in a way that really endears us and helps people think of us like a best friend that they would talk to.
Right.
So that when that moment comes, we are top of mind. And so that's got to be consistent, and it's got to be interesting. To your point, nobody's interested in coming to our site to read all the details of something unless they're in that buying moment. So of course those things matter, but you've got to stay top of mind, and you've got to be a trusted advisor first.
Right. Right. I think you hit it on the head, that before you're even a trusted advisor, you have to be that friend. You've got to be like somebody that especially for millennials and Gen Z, you have to be somebody that they'd actually think about wanting to hang out with and talk to before you even get into this trusted advisor level. That's a whole another discussion.
Yes.
But in terms of the strategy, I've got to ask the age-old annoying CFO question for us marketers: is how is the strategy moving the numbers, whether it be membership or product penetration or net income or some of those other key performance indicators? How is the content moving the needle per se?
Okay. Yeah. So, one of the ways that we measure that is just like I said, with our brand benchmarking. And it's amazing because what we've seen, in the first year, it was exponential, especially in Fort Collins. We've got a partnership with Colorado State University. And so, having naming rights at the stadium made a big, big difference in awareness. What's really cool is that this year, as we got the results back, we saw exponential change, not only in Fort Collins, but also in Denver, which is tough. You've got a big metro market there. It's hard to get people's attention. So, that building discipline around understanding how that funnel is growing has been one part. And then, while we would never take credit for all this, because, we know that loan growth, membership growth, deposit growth is not just about marketing. It's about those teams that deliver that. It's about the digital experience, IT driven. None of this is all just associated to marketing. But I think when you look at the results for Canvas, holistically, we are a really strong and growing organization. We had 14% loan growth last year. We had deposit growth of over 10%. Our membership growth was over 5%. So again, not all of that is about marketing, but I think, the team effort that we have here across all of the functional areas that bring that to life really shows that the brand is working. And again, it has to be relentless. The thing that I always talk about, because it's funny, we do a lot of listening posts internally, and one of the questions we got, especially last year, was, okay, now that branding's over, what are we on to next, right? So, did
you slap somebody?
So I always say is like that's never over, right? Our
Yeah.
journey to tell our story, especially as a credit union, it's the age old adage that we're the best kept secret in North America. It's absolutely shifting here. And I think what's fantastic to see is that the organization is really embracing marketing and very, very excited about the work that we're doing. One of the partnerships I would point to, from a results standpoint, we created 100% home product last year that was really all about, again, affordability. You see it, I'm sure, in California and in Colorado. This is a very hot real estate market. And so, especially for young buyers, that can be a real challenge. So, but, one of the other challenges is that many people don't think about credit unions as even being a place where they could get a mortgage. So we did a Super Bowl campaign and launched that and saw really strong growth in that 100% home product. And so again, the way that we really view success here at Canvas is all of those partnerships across the organization that really bring what we can do to create impact to life.
Yeah, I think what Canvas really understands, and I think what you try to impart on those folks that said we're done branding, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Is, and I say this all the time, is that marketing and branding are not synonyms. Now when you're marketing, if you're doing it right, you are branding.
Yes.
But you know what? There are times when you're branding, as much of your content speaks to, you're not necessarily marketing. And I think that the credit unions in general that are now really getting it is understanding that, one, if you're not actively branding, you're passively branding, and you may not necessarily like what you get. But also, which I think is really more comfortable to credit unions if they really think about it. You could actively brand, and actually, like I see a lot of this, at this time during the pandemic, I see a lot of active branding about what we're doing during this pandemic that really doesn't have as much to do with marketing. And I think that will serve each individual credit union a lot better than, talking about, RV loans, which nobody needs right now.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and you make such a good point, because I think, again, because we often get asked those questions about, does our marketing team bring value? What are the results? We often leave branding behind because that is not an overnight accomplishment.
Right.
I ride the Peloton bike, and one of the instructors often says that your body isn't Amazon Prime, right? It's not going to come tomorrow. And the same is true with your brand, right? It's not going to come tomorrow. And yet, if you don't do it and do it well, the long-term results of that are a real challenge. So making sure that you have the discipline to commit to that, even if you can't say, gosh, these are the absolute results that we gained in 1 month's time. It's really about year over year over year. How do you trend and get more awareness so that you do have the opportunity to drive those bottom line results and those campaign results?
Yeah, I think Amazon Prime has kind of messed us up in some way. We expect it in an hour. I kid you not, I had a client once tell me that that she loved Amazon Prime more than her boyfriend.
Oh goodness! All right, there you go.
I thought, I don't know if that's a huge endorsement for Amazon Prime or the fact that you need a new boyfriend. But anyhow, be that as it may, last question I have for you is what's on the horizon for Canvas that you might be able to share, since you're doing so many great things in that branding area? What's that next evolution, possibly in the new normal that we're in?
Yeah, so we actually are thinking a lot about this question of wellness, which I think is even more impactful in this moment. And we think that there is a real connection to financial health and your health overall. And so we are going to be doing some research around that and then thinking about how that continues to connect to the work that we're doing from a brand perspective. So really excited about that. We are continuing to really leverage ambassadors. So one of the things that I'm really proud of with our brand launch and really the ongoing health of the brand is that we engaged internal ambassadors. We call them our Picassos, and they've been really essential to helping make sure that our brand continues to grow and thrive. And then this year we launched a group externally as well, and so we're rotating that group through. So so much of what we do here at Canvas is about how we listen to people, and those voices make sure that every step that we take along the way is answering, again, that what's in it for me question.
Yeah, it all comes down to what's in it for me, and that's what in essence kind of makes you that friendly that friendly person that becomes a trusted advisor. Great stuff, Tansley. I've learned a lot. I hope that our audience has learned a lot as well. I like where a lot of our industry is going with branding. We seem, it collectively for a lot of credit unions to truly get it about branding, and Canvas is a great example. Tansley, thank you so much for spending some time with me this morning.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. Thanks for thinking of us. It's such a joy to be with you.
The pleasure was all mine. I wanted to reconnect with you because we had such a great conversation, and just as important was seeing all the great stuff that you were doing at Canvas, and we really needed to get that out there for credit union business. So I really appreciate it. Thank you again, and thank you to all of you who have either been watching or listening to this episode of the Credit Union Business News Podcast. And we will be back at you in a couple weeks with a whole new episode. Take care.
Learn more about Credit Union Business News at creditunionbusiness.com. Suggestions for the Credit Union Business News Podcast can be directed to Tim O'Hara at tim@cubusiness.com or Ken Bator at Kbator, Bator, at btcinc.net. To learn more about this episode's sponsor, please go to btcinc.net.